Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Bhaskar Blockchain Technology. Friends, my name is Bhaskar Sharma and I have overall 10 plus years of experience in a MNC company. Currently I am working as a Azure Data Engineer. So guys, have you ever opened Azure Data Factory and wondered what exactly is integration runtime? What is a dataset? Why do we need them? If yes, you are in a right place. In today's video, I will explain integration runtime and dataset in the simplest way possible using real world examples. So even if you are a complete beginner, you will understand this concept without getting confused. By the end of this video, you will know what integration runtime is, what a dataset is, how they work together in Azure Data Factory, a real-time example from a data engineering project. So make sure you watch until the end because these are fundamental concepts that are asked in interviews and used in almost every Azure Data Factory project. So guys, let's get started. So first is what is integration runtime. Okay, so here you can see integration runtime and dataset. First we will discuss integration runtime. So integration runtime is the execution engine of Azure Data Factory. Okay, integration runtime is the execution engine of Azure Data Factory. It is responsible for connecting to data source, moving data, executing transformation activities, and securely accessing both cloud and on-premises system. There are three types of integration runtime. Number one, first one is Azure Integration Runtime. Okay, Azure Integration Runtime. Second is self-hosted integration runtime. Self-hosted integration runtime. And what is the third one? Third one is Azure SSIS integration runtime. Azure SSIS integration runtime. Okay, so guys, now we'll see you have understood what is integration runtime. Okay, now types of integration runtime. These are the types of integration runtime. Okay, these are the different types of integration runtime. So Azure Integration Runtime, default IR managed by Azure. Okay, so Azure Integration Runtime is a default integration runtime managed by Azure. Azure Integration Runtime used for cloud to cloud data movement. First one is Azure Integration Runtime, which is used for cloud to cloud data movement. Okay, and it is a default integration runtime managed by Azure. Just remember. Next is self-integration runtime. So what is the self-integration runtime? Self-integration runtime installed on an on-premises or virtual machine. Okay, it is used to securely access on-premises system. Okay. Third is Azure SSIS integration runtime. It runs existing SQL Server integration services packages in Azure. What is SSIS means? SQL Server integration services. Okay, so it runs existing SQL Server integration services package in Azure. So guys, we have understood what is integration runtime and what are the different types of integration runtime. Okay, so we'll see some more description with examples. So integration runtime is the complete infrastructure, as I told you. It is the execution engine in Azure Data Factory that perform the actual work of connecting to data sources. Okay, it generally connect to here. What is the actual work of this integration runtime? Connecting to data source. Just remember, actual work of IR. Okay, actual work of IR connecting to data source, moving data from source to destination, moving data from source to destination, executing data flow transformations, executing data flow transformation. Okay, connecting to on-premises system, connecting to on-premises system. Okay, next, running SSIS packages. Last one is running SSIS packages. Okay, so guys, this is the integration runtime. Okay, so now just a minute, I will erase this one. So guys, next is in simple definitions. Integration runtime is the engine that execute all activities in Azure Data Factory. Okay, so without integration runtime, ADF knows what to do, but it has no engine to actually perform the work. Okay, so it works as a integration runtime, it works as a engine. Okay, just remember. So integration runtime work as a engine in ADF, Azure Data Factory. Okay, so for example, so it is used for, this is managed by Microsoft and is the default integration runtime. Okay, Azure integration runtime is the default integration runtime and this is managed by Microsoft. It is used for Azure SQL database, Azure Blob storage, Azure Data Lake storage, okay, Azure Synapse, REST APIs, other cloud services. So for example, I can give a small example. Here, suppose you want to copy customer data. Okay, if you want to copy customer data, Azure SQL database, okay, then Azure integration runtime, Azure IR, okay, then Azure Data Lake storage Gen 2, ADLS Gen 2. So guys, here Azure integration securely connect to Azure SQL database, read the data and write it into Azure Data Lake storage Z2. Okay, so from this workflow, what you understood is Azure integration runtime securely connect to Azure SQL DB. Okay, it will connect to first Azure SQL DB, then read the data and write it into Azure Data Lake storage Gen 2. Okay, it will read the data from the source and write it into ADLS Gen 2. Okay, this is the very important point, just remember this one guys. Next is self-hosted integration runtime. Okay, What is next? Self-hosted integration runtime. Self-hosted IR. So what is self-hosted integration runtime? Used when the source or destination is inside your organization's private network, okay, on premises. Self-hosted integration runtime used when the source or destination is inside your organization private network, okay, on premises. It is used for SQL Server, Oracle database, file server, SAP, and local folders, okay. A small integration runtime agent is installed on a server inside your network, okay. So for example, on premises SQL Server, okay, on premises SQL Server, on premises SQL Server, self-hosted IR, self-hosted integration runtime, then Azure ADLS Gen 2, okay, ADLS Gen 2. So here the self-hosted integration runtime securely read the data from SQL Server, okay. So self-hosted integration runtime, what it will do, it will securely read the data from the SQL Server, okay. So on premises is the SQL Server, right? So it will read the data from the SQL Server, okay. So and send it to the Azure, and it will send it to the Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, okay. So what is the third point? Third point is SSIS integration runtime. Number 3 is SSIS integration runtime. So what is SSIS integration runtime? It is used only for organizations that already have SQL Server integration services, okay, packages, and want to run them in Azure without redesigning them, okay, understood. It is used for organizations that already have SSIS packages and want to run them in Azure without redesigning them, okay. Suppose for example, real project example, okay, imagine you work for a healthcare company, okay, imagine you work for a healthcare company. So every night hospital SQL Server, okay, then self-hosted IR, then Azure ADLS Gen 2, okay, ADLS Gen 2, ADF pipeline. So step 1, the pipeline. So every night the pipeline starts at 2 a.m. okay. Suppose the pipeline starts at 2 a.m. So self-hosted, what it will do, it connect to the hospital SQL Server. It will connect to hospital SQL Server, okay. So read patient record, copies them to Azure Data Lake Storage, okay. It will read the data from the patient record from SQL Server and copies them to ADLS Gen 2, okay. It will copies them to ADLS Gen 2. Then pipeline finishes successfully, okay. So without self-hosted IR, ADF cannot access the on-premises SQL Server, okay. So integration runtime is very important, okay. It is because it is a execution engine. Just remember this point. So next we will see what is dataset. So a dataset is a logical representation of the data that Azure Data Factory reads from or writes to. A dataset doesn't store the data, it only tells ADF which specific data to use, okay. In a simple definitions, a dataset is a reference to a specific table, files, or folder in a data source. It contains metadata such as the table name, file path, file format and schema. Okay, just remember. So in interview, if the interviewer asks, just give the answer that a dataset points to a specific table, file or folder in a connected data source. Simple. So a relationship between link services and dataset. Okay, so link services, what it will do? Link services will establish the connection to the source. Just remember. So how to connect to the data source? It will establish the connection to the source. Okay, then dataset, what it will do? Which specific data to use? It generally points to a specific table, file or folder in a connected data source. Okay, so for a real-time example, I want to give an example here. So suppose if your office address, suppose office address is the link service. Okay, link service, and interview room is a dataset. Suppose in your office there are multiple interview rooms. Okay, you are going for an interview. Okay, suppose the address helps someone to reach the office. Okay, address will help you to reach the office. Okay, but it doesn't tell them which room to go to. Okay, there are multiple rooms but you don't know. You can reach the office but you don't know which room to go to for the interview. Then this dataset identifies the specific locations inside the office. Okay, understood? This interview room identifies this dataset, means this dataset identifies the specific locations in the office. There is a specific location of the interview room, right? It will specify the specific locations inside the office. Okay, got it? For example, suppose SQL database. Okay, SQL database. So we are creating a service like SQL database. Suppose your SQL server contains one database named as SalesDB. Inside SalesDB there are multiple tables. Okay, like customer, order, okay, product and so on. Okay, first the link services stores the connection detail. Okay, it generally stores the connection detail. What are the details it will store? Link services will store like server name, then database, then username and password. Okay, so it will stores the connection detail. Okay, so this only tells the ADF how to connect. Link services will tell, it will stores the connection details and it will tell ADF how to connect. Okay, it doesn't tell ADF which table to use. ADF knows how to connect, but it doesn't tell ADF that which table to use. Okay, link services doesn't tell ADF which table to use. So for that, what we have to do, we have to use dataset. Okay, now you have to create a dataset. Okay, suppose the dataset name is like customer dataset. Okay, customer dataset is the customer dataset. Okay, table like customer. Okay, so read the customer table. If you create another dataset, okay, so what it will do, if you create the dataset, that now ADF knows, okay, to read the customer table. okay, because you are pointing to the particular table, okay, in that source. So ADF knows to read the customer table. So if you create another data set, so like order data set, okay, so table is like order, so ADF now read the order table, okay. So like that you can create multiple data set for each table, okay. So notify the both data set use the same link services. ADF now reads the order table and notice that both dataset use the same link services. Okay, what is the dataset? Okay, so in simple word you can tell a dataset in Azure Data Factory is a logical representations of the data that a pipeline reads from or writes to. It doesn't contain the actual data but stores metadata such as the table names, file path, file format and schema. A dataset always uses a link services to connect to the data source. For example, if the link services connect to an Azure SQL database, the dataset can represent a specific table such as customer, okay. So similarly, if the link services connect to the Azure Blob Storage, the dataset can represent a specific file such as sales.csv. Okay, just remember. So easy way to remember link services, how to connect dataset, what data should I use, what data should I use, okay. Then pipeline overall workflow, okay. Pipeline, what is the pipeline overall workflow? Activity, individual task, individual task within the workflow, okay. So why do we need a data set? Suppose ADF only handle link services like server, okay, SalesDB. So ADF would know how to connect, but it would not know where you went, whether you want customer table, order table, product table or employees table. So it can connect, okay. So suppose ADF only had a link service, then it can connect to the source, but ADF will not know, right? So which dataset or you want to whether you want customer table, order table, product table, okay. So that dataset answer that questions. If you your dataset, if you create a dataset, then it will give the answer to ADF, okay. It will tell which dataset to connect to. So guys, suppose in a database having the multiple tables, okay, so instead of creating separate dataset, suppose you have the multiple tables, then we are creating multiple dataset, right? So instead of creating separate dataset for every table, so you can create one parameterized dataset, okay. So we'll see in the practical session what is parameterized dataset, but now I want to tell you that suppose dataset, small example I am giving, dataset table name is tn, okay, table name like @dataset dot table name, okay. So pipeline parameter, you have to give the pipeline parameter table name is equal to customer, So during execution, okay, customer next, during execution it will be customer, and if you want next run, then it will be orders. Suppose there are multiple tables, so we are connecting two at a time. Okay, suppose it will first will connect to the customer. Okay, if you want next execution, then it will connect to the order. Okay, if you want next run, it will connect to the product, some like that, because you no need to create again and again data set. Okay, once you parameterize, then it will work automatically. So the same data set can now be reused for different tables. Okay, got it? So remember guys, one simple memory trick I want to give you, that link services, you can think that it is address. Okay, then dataset specific file, dataset is like specific file table at the address. Okay, specific file table at that address, okay. Then pipeline, you know, the pipeline is the workflow. Okay, I already told you. Activity is an individual task. Okay, activity is an individual task. And integration runtime, engine that perform the work. Integration runtime is an engine that perform the work. Okay, so guys, congratulations, now you understand what integration runtime and datasets are and how they are used in real world Azure Data Factory project. So if this video helped you learn something new, please like the video, subscribe to Bhaskar Blockchain Technology and press the bell icon so you don't miss the next Azure Data Engineering tutorial. In the next video, you will learn another important Azure Data Factory concept step by step, so stay tuned. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment. I will reply to as many as I can. Okay. Thanks for watching. Keep learning, keep growing, and I will see you in the next video guys. Bye.